What's up, guys? Wiggy here, workingclassfitness.com. Wanted to throw together a real quick follow-up video for you because of a question I got on a recent video I put up about Tabata intervals. Guy on YouTube by the screen name of G Salinas 10. Thanks for that question. I appreciate it. He had the question of whether or not the jab cross combination was too long, quote unquote, to use for Tabata intervals. Now, the video he actually had a question about, I'll link to that video in the description of this, so check the description of this video so you can go back and watch it if you haven't seen it. But the point I made in our previous video was many exercises, in fact, the vast majority of exercises or movements should not be used for Tabata intervals simply because the range of motion is too long. And you can't turn over, you can't consistently get more and more done and try and compress more work in a real short time frame, which is something, again, I described really in depth in that last video. So G. Salinas' question is whether or not, if you're hitting the heavy bag, the jab cross combination, is that too long of a range of motion? Does it take too long to execute one movement or revolution or rep, whatever you want to call it, of a jab cross combo? And before I can really answer that, you have to take a step back and realize that there's two ways you can go about hitting the heavy bag. Now, if you look at it, most of the time when you go in to hit the heavy bag, you're doing it for the purpose of technique, for execution, for maximum power, maximize your punching efficiency, that sort of a thing. So technique is always what takes precedence. You're going to be taxing your conditioning, and you're going to be getting a conditioning workout as a byproduct, but that's not the reason why you go in and hit the heavy bag the vast majority of the time. Now and then, what you will see some fighters do, and what I have some advanced, really, higher level guys that are in really good shape, what I'll have them do is go in and hit the heavy bag or drill or whatever, hit the mitts, whatever. And the emphasis is actually going to be on conditioning. So I'm not saying back off in the technique, but instead of going in with the thought process of, hey, I want to maximize my technique and my efficiency and my punching power, my fight skills, so to speak, go in and say, hey, for however long of a time, whatever your round is, or however long you're hitting the heavy bag for, your focus is volume to try and get as much done. Now, if you look at that, it kind of goes back to what I've said about conditioning before. There's always this inverse relationship with conditioning. You've got duration, you've got intensity. You can either go, for a long period of time, or you can go really hard, but you can't do both. And the further you go towards one end of the continuum, the less the other one has to be. So, the longer you go, the easier you're going to have to go, or the harder you go, the shorter the time period has to be. When you're hitting the heavy bag, you have kind of a similar continuum in that the harder you hit the bag, and the better your efficiency is, the less your volume is going to be, the less intensity you can have, in that the less volume you'll have in a given time period. The more you focus on punching volume and that sort of a thing, the little bit less you have to focus on technique. Now, you can maximize touches on the bag in any way you want. I mean, you could go in and just tap, 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 tap the bag, but you are drastically reducing how hard you're working there. So what you need to do is kind of find that midpoint of what is kind of the best overall combination for you in terms of the hardest you can work, the hardest you can punch the bag, the most volume you can get, that sort of a thing, to maximize your conditioning, to get you working the hardest. Again, not necessarily for technique as much as it is just to go in and get you sucking wind, because that's the purpose here. Now, once you have that, and you kind of know, how hard you have to work, the question then becomes whether or not can you maintain that for not only, if you're looking at Tabata rounds, for 20 seconds, but can you maintain maximum power output, maximum your punching volume, power per punch, that sort of a thing. Can you maximize that output throughout all 8 rounds of 20 seconds? If you end up drastically reducing how hard you can work, either by the end of that first round or after a few rounds in, if there's something else that ends up restricting you outside of your cardiovascular conditioning, i.e., muscular fatigue, your shoulders get tired from holding your hands up, or whatever it is, if there's something else that ends up restricting you, which is a big thing that I talked about in the previous video, then it's not a real good idea. As far as the range of motion, it's not so long. I mean, you can always try and get additional punches in there, but if you end up becoming too tired to get punches additional punches in that are of adequate quality, i.e., if you start off in your first round and you're kind of at that maximum capability, I was talking about, the best combination of volume versus how hard you're working, versus technique, that sort of a thing. If you can start out at that, but by the end of that 8th round, you're just barely tapping the bag just to keep the shoulders moving, or to keep the hands moving, excuse me, then you're not really doing yourself any good, because you are drastically reducing how hard you're working, and you're running into many of the same problems that I talked about in the last video that people have when they do Tabatas, and you'd be better off hitting the bag, but doing something different. Maybe doing a kind of a 10 by 10 thing that, Rossi Inamate has talked about before, or, various other punching drills that you can do. So really, it depends on you and what your own capabilities are. I'm not going to say the jab cross combo is too long. I'm not going to say it's long enough. Because it's really going to depend upon you and what you can do, what kind of power output you can maintain, and how long you can maintain that power output, as well as what's going to end up restricting you once you start getting tired. Is it muscular fatigue? Is it cardiovascular fatigue? Is it a lack of work capacity? Whatever. So really, it's kind of depend on you. So ultimately, I know it sounds like kind of a BS answer, but if you can do it, then it'll work. If you can't do it, then it's no good for you. So try that. If you got further questions, if I can clarify a little bit more, feel free to let me know. I'll shoot you another video, or I can shoot you an email, something along those lines. So thanks again for that question. And if there's anything else I can do for you guys, let me know. That's the end of this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like and share this book on Facebook, tweet it out to all your pals, and don't forget the link at the end of this video. Click on that link, go enter in your email address. I'll let you know when all the new YouTube videos come out. I'll send you plenty of tips and advice on how to get strong, build muscle, get in fighting shape, as well as I'll go ahead and send you a free sample of Working Class Fitness Killer MMA workouts. Sound good? Good deal. We'll catch you on the flip side. Train hard, rest hard, play hard.